Trichotillomania is characterized by the persistent and excessive pulling of one's own hair, resulting in noticeable hair loss. Trichophagia is the compulsive eating of this hair. In trichophagia, people will ingest the hair that they pull, and in extreme cases, this can lead to a hairball. These very real mental health diagnoses are just a couple of the many themes present in Are We Not Cats, a 2016 film written and directed by Xander Robin. On today's episode, we have the pleasure of sitting down and chatting with Xander to discuss his film, his previous short films, and exactly why mental health disorders such as these play such a large role in much of his work. This interview really spans further than just about the films, and we really hope you enjoy it. Also, the music in this episode comes from the band Lightning Bolt out of Providence, Rhode Island. The song you'll hear, Assassins, is featured in Are We Not Cats, so if you like it, be sure to check out their albums on Bandcamp. Enjoy the show. Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Dave.
This is Joshua.
And this is Brandon.
This is the special guest, the director of Are We Not Cats, Xander Robin.
And you're now tuned in to PBD Horror.
Thanks everybody for tuning in. We have our special guest, Xander Robin, director of Are We Not Cats? Not a new film, but I feel like people are talking about it a lot more recently, or at least it was brought to my attention. So maybe it's just hitting up streaming sites.
Well, Shudder does this thing where they'll release it. I don't really know because I don't have conversations with my distributor right now, but they released it and then it goes off the service, and then the next month it's like, and now new on the service, it's Are We Not Cats is back. I was like, I didn't realize it left, but maybe it left for 2 months. Maybe it's just a great, maybe at Shudder they just love the movie and they want to re-release it.
Yeah, I think that could be the case. I also think it was getting a little bit of like another life because it became a romantic horror film too.
Right, for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It's so funny, like you notice like the times that people will watch it, especially like as someone that's made a movie that has not been recently released, and it's a movie that not a lot of people have seen. So that every October now and every February, it's like it gets a life. It's funny.
Yeah.
So I was able to watch it on Tubi. So, I like to watch all my films on kind of like Tubi a little bit. So, but the commercials, I dealt with it. It was fine, but I love the film,
You love the service Tubi?
Yeah. Have you use it or no?
It's got added. It's like watching a movie on TV, basically.
Yeah.
It's got ads.
Not bad.
Well, it takes you back to watching movies on cable, though, I guess.
Yeah, when I was younger, like I always tell these guys that, Tubi, it kind of makes you feel like that Saturday morning horror, when we watch horror films on like UPN and everything back in the day. So
UPN.
Yeah, awesome. Had to take it back real quick.
Yeah. So, I mean, we want to just touch base a little bit about this film, a little bit about your early work. So, Brandon, I don't know, you want to hit him up with the first question?
Yeah. So this film has been categorized as like a horror comedy, specifically in the body horror subgenre.
Right. Yeah.
Now, did you set out to create a horror film? Also, what are some of your favorite body horror films?
I set out to. Horror is a word I probably wasn't thinking about, but body horror is always an idea that I'm thinking about. And I guess to me that doesn't imply like scares. It just is. There's an expectation for gore, right?
Yeah.
Some gore is going to happen, and that's it. So that was always the expectation, and then the expectation was also to make a romantic movie. And you've seen the short, so you know that like there's a few of the shorts that have that romantic body horror aspect. That was something I was. For whatever reason, some abstract reason that I can't even put my head around, I was making without even any knowledge of what I was doing in college. And then people helped like put some, movies in front of my eyes that are part of that genre as well, which is like, Society is a fun one.
Nice.
In terms of the gore. And I like Dead Ringers a lot. I'm a big fan of that movie. And The Fly is basically my favorite movie, at this point. And the next like movie that I'm has like a transformation, like in The Fly,
Cool.
like a full transformation. There's certain movies that have like this kind of like grotesqueness that is not horror, but like, you know, like something as obvious as like Gummo is a grotesque movie,
Yes.
but it's
Yeah.
it's not body horror. It's not even horror, but it's grotesque. So these are all super obvious ones. I know you guys are horror people, so I'm trying to like get the deep cuts, but I'm blanking a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie. When I was thinking about this film and we were thinking about things we wanted to ask you, and I was thinking about body horror, Gummo came to my mind when I thought of this film. So that's funny. And I was actually going to ask you also, like,
Eraserhead also, yeah. It's like the first, like, is that a body horror movie? But it's got the screaming baby, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
And like, I was wondering if you're also a fan of like Harmony Korine films, because I kind of like think of like kids and just like, I don't know, something about the characters.
The first few I love, like Julian Donkey Boy, Gummo, are great. I think, you know, after he burned 2 of his houses down, those movies are different. I would call them, they're in a different category, and I still like them, but in a different way. The early stuff I like in a special way.
Cool.
Because he's flying close to the sun, you know. I always appreciate that.
All right, so you kind of alluded to it already, but one of the things we want to ask you is about some of your, like one of your earlier films. It's a short film called Herod, right? Saying it that right that time.
Herod,
So it's like basically it's a short film watching the gross like anxiety escalation of a teenager who's invited to a party where I think we were kind of assuming that he thinks he's going to have sex, or there's going to be some kind of sexual encounter, and he's just freaking out.
It's an incel movie. I'm realizing that, but like at the time it was like, you know, but like now I'm just like, oh no, is this an incel movie? Because it's like, he's a virgin, right? He's involuntary celibate. Okay, go on.
So, you know, just watching this boy with like the pick scabs, and it just progressively becomes like this bloody urine-soaked vomit mess. But then he ends up finding out the girl's like occupied with somebody else, like going down this vagina slide together.
That was my backyard. My whole thing, that was my house that I was living in. I would just like stand in my house, be like, okay, I would picture certain things, and then I would paint and then I had to repaint everything afterwards.
Sure.
But I like made the house into the set of the movie. It was a rental in Tallahassee, and then you know, we had to switch it back later, and it took like months to switch back, and everyone was, you know, asking me to.
That's so awesome. You just meet somebody, hey, you want to come over and go down my vagina slide?
The slide was hard to find at the time.
Oh, I would imagine. I would imagine. So, I mean, this seemed to me like this was like the obvious like first step to Are We Not Cats? And I wonder like what was the inspiration behind this short film at that? This was 2011, I think I saw.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it was very abstract. It was just like I wrote it and I was like, this is, you know, and then everyone's like, oh, have you seen all these movies? And then I watched them. I was like, oh yeah, all these people are doing it really much better. I guess in terms of like the hair stuff in it, that is something that is like more personal to me, that like I have that weird problem where I just, when I have anxiety, I have these weird compulsions and I don't want to do them, but I do. And so I was like, oh, this is like such a crazy image and feeling. And I'm a filmmaker. I want to put that into the movie somehow. And you sort of see it in a different way in Virgin Herod. It's like you know, we had to get all that hair from my hair cutting place, and you could kind of see the tweezers in the scene with the old guy in the bathroom. Like there was very specific instructions for the girls to be pulling his back hair. And there's an Are We Not Cats short that is like hidden for certain reasons, and there's back hair pulling in that one too.
Okay.
That all that stuff is personal in terms of like the pustules. That's, I guess, personal in a way, but it's kind of more like obvious. Like this is an easy way to understand this character. But yeah, I'm trying to give you an answer of like what movies did I watch that inspired me, but it was sort of I like instinctually want to show those images, and then I did them, and then I watched the movies later that you know can articulate it better than I could and try to learn some lessons from them. And I've always, like I said, been a hypochondriac and have had like, you know, maybe when I was younger, my if I had a cough, my parents were like, "Oh, you have asthma. Like, let's." And so it was aided by them in a way. Maybe it's like a Jew thing too, in my opinion. And that just like has, if I'm doing my own writing, it comes off in the films. And I think all the movies I want to make that would be really close to me, that I would, when you make a movie, it takes years of your life, and you have to love it, and you have to really feel a connection with it if you're gonna like keep working on it after a year. And I've tried working on projects that I didn't love, that I was doing maybe for the money, or maybe I thought it was good for my career, but the only thing that could really bring you happiness and also will make the best projects are the stuff that you have a personal connection with. So it's always going to have this like kind of either a medical aspect or a body horror aspect, some sort of guts. It doesn't have to be the first thing that's in there, but it has to be like it has to be there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you started to, you basically answered one of my next questions, because like that, the theme of trichotillomania is
Sure.
obviously in Are We Not Cats and
Yes.
the Virgin Herod. But then there's also, like you said, I think the picking disorder is a different category, but it's still all OCD based, anxiety based disorders. And then you added this element in of which I didn't know the name of this, so I had to look this up.
When you eat it, yeah.
Trichophagia.
Yeah. It's basically just like a section of people that have trichotillomania go that far. And I just remember seeing that story when I was like maybe, when I was in college and I was writing Virgin Herod and I was making it. I remember seeing that story of the hairball in the stomach, and like these girls that were going. It was mostly girls that were going to the hospital and getting it removed or dying. And I was just like, oh, this is like, I have to make this movie. And at the time, this is why I sort of relate with, at the time I was like, I have to make this movie before anyone else does. Someone else is going to make Are We Not Cats. I have to do it first. And now I'm like looking back, I'm like, I'm crazy, but no one would dare make that. At the time I was like, oh, like this is great. Like this story, it's so cinematic, and it could be done for like, a low budget because, so I was basically in a rush to make that after feeling like, personally, I felt like Virgin Herod was a success. Like I had, achieved some of the things I wanted, which is, a rare feeling when you're making movies. Very often the failures are louder to you than the achievements. But the first screening of that, I was like, okay, this feels good. Let's keep moving in this direction.
Yeah, I know that like when I was watching it, I think the three of us kind of felt a connection to this film, probably for similar but also different reasons. I know Josh has like a personal connection with this. I know myself, when I saw him doing in the very beginning, he was like picking and pulling at his hairs, and I do that all the time. I never really thought of it in the sense of like it being an OCD behavior. But I work in, the mental health field, and I know many people who do this behavior, and also like the scab picking, which can be pretty devastating to people. So I right there really caught my attention, and I thought you captured it in a really interesting way.
Yeah, for me, this film it really hit home because my wife has trick. So for me, watching the character was Anya, the female, and she wasn't really picking. It was the guy, but her movements were spot on. Like when he takes the hat off and you see how her hair is. When that happened, I was like, oh my God, this is my wife. You know what I mean? Yeah. The movement was perfect. The shyness was perfect. I thought that acting was brilliant. The entire scene was so well done. And I was like, this is real. Like, it looks so real life. And then my next question was that the actress, or was that you putting that into it?
I tried to explain kind of the whole, I guess the medical examples and like my own anecdotal experiences to the actors, and they were pretty, they were like all in, and it's tough with the indie movie to find people that are willing to trust that this is going to be a good movie and that we're going to do it justice, and it's not going to be corny or like. So Chelsea did her own research, but a lot of it was like, just if she would do something that was like not right, I'd be like, hey, stop, and like you would do it like, I guess, this way. So yeah, I felt very responsible to making sure that the portrayal of the medical and the compulsion aspects were specific enough that, if someone in my head deep down, I'm like, oh, this is actually really made for whoever might have this problem. And, I don't know how many of those people like this genre of movie or even want to see something like that, but in my head, that's who it was for. And I wanted them to be able to look at that and be like, okay, like that's legit. And when you asked, like, if that was her, you're talking about her hair, like, specifically?
No.
Her like, yeah.
When you come across as something like that and you make it look that real, it's either somebody knows what it feels like,
yeah,
or they did a lot of research to make the movements.
A lot of it's also in the edit, like myself, like she picking the right moments. But Chelsea is a instinctually good actress, and so if she nailed it for you, that makes me happy to hear. I just remember in that scene specifically, like, and also it was those scenes end up becoming very technical. You're just like, this is how you would feel about it, and this is especially when Michael was like pulling that's me saying, like, I want to see the root, right, of the hair. I don't want it to just be a hair. Like, that's like a specific. I actually, whenever people would ask me in Q&As, they're like, oh, what inspired you to do this? I was like, imagine if you didn't have this problem and you were making this movie. It would seem really confusing, and I don't know why you would want to do it, actually, why you would want to put yourself through making it. So,
like 20 years ago or so, this was pretty big. Well, up here, I was in the goth scene up here, and this Telemania was actually really big in the goth scene. And I'm going back 20 years when, before I had kids, and I used to go out. I don't go out anymore, but it was really big in that scene. And the club scenes, they look like old goth clubs that I used to attend in Rhode Island and Boston and Connecticut and stuff. Now, and Trick to Telemania, like, obviously is a really interesting beast in itself, and to put it in a culture like that where it's actually like accepted, and a lot of them used to wear wigs and stuff like that, and it was accepted. Did that influence those scenes?
You're blowing my mind right now. No, I had no idea. That there was like a scene of people that shared this problem that were like at a
together. The goth scene years and years and years ago here, a lot of people that had Trick to Telemania would go to the goth clubs because you could wear wigs.
Wow.
And it just became like, it's okay because a lot of people had the disorder. So
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Underground movement. And in the film, there was some scenes where they were at the club, and I just thought that was a connection. So,
I mean, I probably wrote it for the same reasons that they would go. But you are blowing my mind. No, my first, all I knew were like when I was like in middle school, and this was like the first time I even like had this compulsion. I would like search about it online, and you would see like forums. I was like, oh, okay, like people do this. That's what you do if you do anything weird, you're like, you just search it online, and then you see that there's a forum. Before there was a forum, I guess it was the club. That is really interesting.
Yeah. The culture was, and obviously my wife was in that culture back then too. But here's the other thing: if you suffer from this, the past 10 years specifically, I in my opinion, me and my wife have been together for a long time, but the past 10 years, Trick to Telemania awareness has really picked up, in my opinion. Does that influence you making this film? Are you trying to bring awareness to Trick, or?
I think the responsibility of a movie is not to raise awareness of anything. It's just to, but if it ends up, influencing a conversation, I think that's great. I think the the idea was first to just use that as paint to make a piece of art or to make a movie. And I feel like it would make it, as a pragmatic person, just trying to make a low budget movie that is personal at the time, like that was the avenue I chose. So I didn't really overthink it really, but I was thinking in the back of my head, like, if anyone, has this, I hope they see it and I hope they feel, seen in a way. So I hope, that aspect happens. But I like I said, the Venn diagram of people with Trick that might like a movie like this, I don't know how much overlap there is. I think a little bit. I've seen it. Every now and then I'll search it on Reddit, and I've seen it mentioned in like the Trick forum like a couple times, and most people are like, I don't know if I could watch that. But some people are like, isn't this crazy that this exists? Because yeah. But the raising awareness, it's an interesting question, because I think some people make things because they're just like, I want to raise awareness on like this issue of genocide or something terrible. And, those docs have their own purpose. I know there's a Trickster doc, and that makes sense that its specific purpose is to raise awareness. As a creative movie, I don't know. I think that's too much of a burden for artists to raise awareness.
Well, I got to thank you, because my wife does not like body horror.
Oh, yeah.
Then I told her about this film, and she is, we're trying to set aside from a date night where we can actually sit together and watch the film. So I appreciate it. I thank you highly for that.
Oh, yeah. I hope she goes easy on it.
Feel free to watch my kids while we watch your film.
All right. Over Zoom.
Yeah.
You can
So,
see
changing gears a little bit, another thing I want to ask you about, just with this and even like your short films, that just for anyone listening, you can find the short films on xanderrobin.com. But your characters are like intriguing, they're quirky, and they're strange. So each character we meet in the film, especially like Are We Not Cats, every character we meet is a new level of odd, which just kind of keeps adding to like the bizarreness of the film. Where do you get these influences and these ideas for these characters? Like, where do they come from?
Those are the people I want to meet in a movie. I think in some sense, I do wonder if like if I spend so much time with like these actors, they end up kind of mirroring me in a way, or they end up kind of like speaking, stammering or something like that. But usually I just write the people I would like to meet in a movie, and I try not to write generic personalities. And sometimes I write very low-key personalities that have, their own sort of eccentricities. But like I said, I don't really overthink that. But if I'm doing my own writing, I try to cast specifically. And with Are We Not Cats specifically, a lot of the actors and characters are it's mostly the casting. And that's what it comes down to. So if you could write a part of like the guy that worked at the junkyard, the bald guy at the junkyard, and that was like just a random part. But we met the guy who brought the garbage truck, had a friend who he brought to the set who just wanted to watch, and we were like, "You're awesome. Can you please be in this movie like in a few days?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Just like think about it, talk to your family about it." And then, because that's the best trick. You tell people, we really want you to be in the movie, and don't let them say no. But if they say no, you say, think about it, talk to your family. And usually the family's like, of course, you're a movie star, you got to do it. If their kid's like, what are you going to say no to this? Like, come on. And then of course he's like, okay, I'll do it. And then he was great. And then he was just like, the only thing I don't like is how many times you have to do everything, because we made him do a bunch of takes.
Yeah.
I thought he was great. But yeah, the guy Al, he owned the space we were renting, because we rented all the interiors of the warehouse, and kind of our main stage for the movie was a warehouse in Staten Island. And the person that owned it, he was a character, and we cast him as Al, this guy Dean, and he actually sent us some music that I think we have one of his songs in there as well. But yeah, casting is really one of my favorite aspects of making movies. And if I had it my way, I would just self-finance all my movies, and then I would cast no famous people and only just like interesting people. Yeah. But I know people when they watch a movie, they're like, who's in it? That's the first thing that they ask.
Sure.
So I get that as well.
So I mean, me personally, I love a lot of like indie movies, not just indie horror, but like I like a lot of like indie drama. I mean, Josh, yeah, he loves indie horror. So I mean, we're definitely, that's not something that we will look for. I think for me, I love odd characters. So when I started watching this right away, I was like, I know I'm already hooked, because it was just quirky enough for me that I was like, all right, this is perfect.
I think too quirky is a problem sometimes. You don't want it to be like, I mean, I think I even look back, I'm like, maybe this was too cute. Like the next one will be less cute. Like
I think it kind of shows like you have like a interest in like people in general, like people's personalities. So I think that kind of shows when the way that like you cast this film and the way the character development is.
I appreciate it.
So,
and what I like about the horror genre also is that it's the only genre of movies that you don't need famous people for the movie to work. It's the audiences of horror are really open-minded, and they accept anyone really. The genre is actually better when you feel like you've never met these people before, because then if Tom Cruise gets killed in a movie, you're just like, that guy's not dead. He's still alive. I know where he is. And then like if it's someone you just met for the first time and they die, it kind of feels more final.
You're exactly right. I think actually most horror fans actually probably prefer not to have like these huge movie stars in their films. I think that kind of like ruins it a little bit, unless we're talking about like
Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
It works great I think when you see an actor that's famous turn into a mutant, I think that's a little bit more fun, because then you're just like, it plays on their, because I think the best parts of like a transformation are the parts where in The Fly where Jeff Goldblum still kind of looked like Jeff Goldblum. Like that sweet spot is like when he's like really first starting to have the changes, and then when he's an unrecognizable fly at the end, it's not as fun for the audience, but it's still great. But I think that's the exception, I think, for actors in horror.
Now, I love that you were able to incorporate all the stray cat themes into the film, like Eli's living situations, the diner, and so on. What made you go with this theme for the film?
Yeah, the cats, like, that ended up, I think, happening just by the idea of it being cats is, in my head, it's strictly just cats eat their own fur and can cough up a hairball, but a human can't. And that's really it. And I think all those other things are just the characters I wanted to show, which are, down and out people. I remember watching a movie that was, I didn't know anything about it. In the first 10 minutes, it's all these characters that are going through all this like mental anguish. And I'm just like, oh my God, these are my people. And then like 15 minutes later, I see that it's a heroin movie. And I was like, oh, like, I wish they were just crazy. I wish they were just like having problems and it was all in their heads and not because they were heroin addicts. Yeah. And that's kind of what I wanted in this movie.
Yeah. So now I was sitting there also, like I was saying, like all the cat features, like the issue, like when Kyle came back to like reclaim his male dominance and then like kind of get in a fight with Eli. Like he was trying to warn him, like, look what you're going to get yourself into. Like I noticed he had a hat on.
Right. His character's supposed to be bald. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, oh man, I think he got her. She ate his hair also. So I was like, that was kind of a little cool, like, Easter eggs and everything that you had.
I wish he was bald. The actor wouldn't. I asked him to shave his head, and he said his manager said no. And then he came back. He's like, you know what? That was one of my great regrets in my life, that I didn't shave my head, because I kept my hair for like a career move, and the career move didn't he didn't end up getting that part. And he's like, I could have shaved my head for your movie, and I wish I did. But we had him wear the hat, so like it's still he's supposed to be bald.
I was also sitting there just looking, and then like, because the jug of like they were drinking, so I was kind of like talking to Dave. I was like, was that like ketamine or something like that? Because I know like kind of like a
antifreeze.
Was it just antifreeze? I didn't know if they just had like a empty bottle, because I seen like it was like paled off. So if they would just like add in stuff to it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be whatever you want, but it's antifreeze, and it's like the master kind of.
Can't drink a lot of that; it makes you puke.
No. Yeah,
it's true. It's all poison, but.
It tastes good going down. It tastes sweet.
Really?
Yeah. I've drank it before in a pinch. Back in my
pinch.
Yeah, back in my days, I needed something. I was like, "Hey, this looks good."
Oh I smelled it, tasted it. I should have done the research. Honestly, I'm writing something that incorporates like another fucked up thing that people eat, and I'm going to actually eat it before making the movie, and. just to know. I think it'll be good for the spirit of the movie.
I'm very
Good
intrigued
luck.
right now.
And this is it's going to be mushrooms grown out of lizard shit, but like psilocybin mushrooms grown out of lizard shit. That's
Okay.
I know. I just gave
Back
it all
to the
away.
lizard theme again.
Back to lizards. Yeah. Well, that's
Hey,
it's a
you know what?
hint
That's a lot better than a car battery or something, like
for sure.
you had me worried there for a second. I used to work at the hospital and guys had pica and they'd come in with, batteries.
Oh yeah. There was a pica movie, and I remember I was like, oh man, this is kind of there's a similarity. The swallow, which is different because that was like a rich person. So I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Brandon and I have plenty of experience with pica. So Brandon and I worked at a group home together with kids with disabilities, and the things they would eat.
Really?
Yeah.
Nickels. They're eating nickels and
zippers and
everything,
shoestrings and buttons and
name it,
anything you could find.
Oh my god! It's so interesting that you all connected through. Did you all meet at like in the mental health field?
So Brandon and I did, and then Josh lived across the street from Brandon. So then we kind of got together that way.
I was their patient. That's what I tell everybody.
Wow.
So
they both work in the field. I was the patient.
So I'm sorry because I don't want to make this whole interview about this one disorder, but since we just brought that up again, I want to ask you a question for my own personal reason. I want to ask you, and also just for anyone listening, what helped you with managing your symptoms of trichotillomania or any kind of picking that you might have done OCD related?
It's a good question. I think doing stuff, keeping active. Yeah, I think if I'm like going kayaking or something, I'm not going to do it. If I'm like, going hiking, I think it's more of when I'm just sort of alone that it happens.
Use fidgets at all, or like stress balls or anything like that?
No, I should. I honestly haven't really seeked out help or found treatment, but I just do think about what works. It's still something I do actually. So I prefer any tips is nice, but
give me a call. I'll talk through it.
I think remaining active has helped me though. I try to have like a ritual every day where I go on like a long walk, and that keeps me level. So
I like it.
What do people do? They usually.
So I have a patient right now who picks his skin pretty frequently to the point where it recently started to go to his face.
Wow.
And it's kind of impacting his work because he has business meetings he needs to go to, and he's getting all scabbed up on his face. So we're going to do like kind of, we call it distress tolerance, just making him, when he gets the urge to not do it, occupy his hands with something else, and just kind of wait it out and just sit with that for a little while. And eventually the idea is the more you do that, the less the urge is.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a little time, and it takes definitely some patience and some self-restraint.
Like a stress ball, you said?
Yeah, I'm asking him to grab something, whatever kind of like works for him that he thinks he'll be able to pick up. And it's a lot of just like having him fight that urge. And there's also, I guess there's some medications that are supposed to help with it as well.
Yeah, I try not to take medication.
Sure.
And
I can't prescribe medication, so that's not my deal either. But
I think a stress ball sounds like a good idea. I mean, I still, during the pandemic, it hasn't helped, honestly.
I would imagine. Yeah.
Dave, do you think like also like putty or anything would help for him too? Yeah, putty.
Yep. Any kind of fidget, they say. Anything that's going to occupy your hands. Even like I tell them, like I'll take a pen and just like, clicking on the pen. It's super annoying, but hey, it's occupying your hand for a little bit.
Yeah.
And just like that awareness, you get that urge. Identify like what's the urge you usually get, and like when you start to notice it, just kind of think about it and like avoid doing it. I know that sounds like super obvious, but for some people, they just kind of let themselves start going at it, and then you can't stop. So,
yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you for sharing your insight to it as well and your experiences. I didn't mean to put you on the spot either. Sorry about that.
That's cool. I mean, this is like, it's definitely the most, I think, in depth I've talked about this in an interview about this movie, which is, I appreciate it. It's unexpected. Because normally people are like, I don't want to talk about that anymore.
So I just want to throw it out there what helps my wife quite a bit she uses oils a lot, like natural oils,
essential oils. Yeah.
Yes, she raves about those, and that's how actually she got into them. Was she used them on her temple and her neck, and I guess that helped for, I don't know what she uses, but I can always ask her if you really want to know. And then I give her, I push on her neck up into her skull, like the back of her neck, and up into her skull, and the sides of her neck up into the temples. And apparently that helps as well. So I don't know if you have somebody that could just,
or if you want Josh to come down to Florida, he can always.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, my mother has given me essential oils, but I haven't used them yet because I'm just like I don't understand how they work.
Yeah,
but
give it a try.
I do. I would one day like to grow a great big beard, and then I would know. Then I would conquer this. But it's fine for now.
So
I tried not to I try to shave sometimes just so I have less
avoid less to pick at. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So you alluded to this earlier, and Brandon and I both want to ask you a little bit about the music in your films. So you do a really good job of using music to create mood and atmosphere, and it communicates something in the film. It's another character in your film, I feel. So what are your thoughts about the music, your intention with the music, I guess?
Yeah, for this movie, the idea was to have I guess certain types of sweet romantic music that had sort of a manic aspect, and then also this kind of doom, this idea of this negative music, this kind of doom metal, and both of these things I enjoy, but there was definitely a concept behind the way it was incorporated. In terms of the specific songs that we used, we were sort of, we were making an indie movie, and we had a producer that sort of was able to give us access to a certain library of songs. And so a lot of the songs were from that library, and a lot of it was actually Miami music. So in Miami, there was a huge disco scene in Miami in the 70s, but before that, my producer had access to this label that made sort of sweeter romantic soul music, and we used as much of that as we could for those moments. But in the script there was a bunch of different music that I didn't, none of the songs in the script were in the movie, but yeah, it was supposed to be kind of hot and cold,
Yeah,
I liked all the styles of the music that you did choose, because it just set the mood for all the film. So like you were saying, some of the music that you wanted to use for the film weren't in it. So what are some of the art that you wanted?
What are the artists that I wanted to use originally? Yeah, I mean, I remember listening to this Flying Lotus had a tape called Lover's Melt that felt really romantic and kind of swirly. And it was just a bunch of music that he put on. I was like, this is kind of the mood of the romantic music. And a lot of the songs I wanted to put were on that tape. And a lot of them are really well-known tracks. So it's actually probably for the best that we didn't end up using them. Like that song, I Get High. It's such a, that song is such a, everyone uses it. And then, just some of the general great wall of sound, 60 songs. So it's probably for the best that I didn't end up using all those songs, because the stuff we chose was a little bit more interesting and deeper cuts.
Yeah.
And in terms of the doom metal, it was I like this band Boris, Japanese band.
Okay.
And they had a lot of really, I saw them live. I remember in Tallahassee, they have a lot of and Lightning Bolt's actually from Providence. I actually always wanted to put the Lightning Bolt song in there, and it's in there. That was one of the ones I just reached out to him. I gave him some money, and he let us put the song in there. Yeah, I mean, there's so much stuff to choose from, and music is so weird because of it's not just a creative pursuit. It's also you have to make a business decision of what songs to put in. And if I did it again, I would probably just get an original score. I would make a movie with an original score, because the process of licensing things is crazy. It's like I said, more than just what you want creatively. It's what can you license, what can you put in there. But the idea with this movie was never to have no original score and all soundtrack.
Was there any significance behind your use of the little like piano with the lights?
Oh yeah,
Like-
that was more of just like there was like this thing originally in the cut that like he had a piano in his bedroom, he had a piano in his like house in his truck, and and then there was like at the end of the movie he was going to have this piano in this in the new house that he had in like up by the lumberyard. And I guess the only one that stayed in there was the little one in the in his truck, and that's just supposed to be, I guess, like a hopeful thing for him. But it's kind of, I think when you look back, you're just like, what? It's just kind of confusing. I still like it. Like
I liked it too. I like that like was the one thing that was important to him.
Oh yeah,
like
for sure.
He had to bring it, and then he had to get the one from the club and bring it to Anya. Like it just that seemed to be something that symbolized importance to him. And he's also the world's strongest man because he can move himself out of an apartment and into another place all alone. I'm like, I wish I could do that.
Nothing makes you question your life as much as moving giant things upstairs. And you're just like, wow. I remember I was watching the movie Tenet. I was just, and I during the time I was watching this movie Tenet. You see this, Christopher Nolan?
I haven't seen it yet. No,
it's the story still works. Where I was moving during that time, and I was moving all this, like, this is like a month ago. I was moving shit upstairs, and I was watching this movie Tenet. Everyone's so like sophisticated. It's like a Men's Warehouse commercial. Everyone's like wearing like a nice suit, and they go into a room, and the furniture's already there. And I'm like, these characters never had to move furniture. They've never had to, like, they always pay someone to move their furniture. I was like,
different type of people right there.
Exactly. But I think everyone should experience moving, over and over again. Makes you a better person. It makes you more, gracious.
I think that's the story of our lives. I know that. Yeah. So, all right, Xander, tell us what else. Well, what do you want to tell people you have coming out? I know if it's secret, don't tell us. But what do you want people to know? What are they looking out for?
I have nothing coming out. I'm working on projects, and I'm glad no one's asking me to hurry up. I like taking my time,
sure.
And I think the world could use more patience anyway. And but watch the movie and watch the shorts, and that'll be fun. And I guess I am working on I'm directing a TV show, but I'm like directing something for hire right now.
Okay.
And it's not really that narrative, but it'll be interesting, and it's going to have a lot of interesting characters in it.
Cool.
But it's not horror. There's, maybe a little bit, but we had like a giant squid, which was cool. I guess that's a monster. There's monsters a little bit, but there's been pushback on the monsters. Okay. Yeah, the show is so the producers of the show are the Safdie brothers, who did Uncut Gems, Good Time, and they saw my Lizard movie, and they actually saw a still from Army of Cats, and they hired me to direct episodes of this TV show. And we were doing that before the pandemic started. We did 2 episodes. I did one in Florida and one in Catalina. And then we're about to do the rest of them starting next month. And then after that, I finally make a movie. I'm making my next movie.
Awesome.
Which has been a long time coming. Yeah. No, it's the reason why it's taken so long is I'm trying to make it like I want more people to watch it, really. So it'll be a bigger production.
Well, I think what you should do in order to get people to watch it is just post a still of you with lizards hanging from your earlobes.
Oh yeah.
From your short with the lizards, and everyone will be intrigued, and they will check out anything you do after that.
Yeah, once I have something to promote, I'll annoy everyone. I just don't like annoying people like in between. That's what I usually see social media as, like, just annoying people. It's just noise, and it's just like everyone's like bombarding you with stuff. And I prefer to leave people alone. And
Thank you.
I prefer to leave people alone until it's time to be like, okay, like, you're going to be sick. Because whenever there's marketing for anything, you get sick of it, right? You're just like, stop yelling at me. But I get why they're doing it. They want people to see.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll have to save the goodwill of everyone until I'm ready to bother people. shoving the next movie down your throat.
So hopefully we can do some of this dirty work for you, and we can spread the word about Are We Not Cats and direct people to check out your short films. And hopefully that will kind of like build up some momentum going into anything else you have coming up at some point.
Yeah,
so.
into the lizard movie. We'll call it that right now.
Yeah. So, all right. Xander, thank you so much for joining us, man. This has been a really nice conversation, and I really appreciate you joining us, and also just like kind of being so open to kind of anything we've asked. So thank you so much.
Oh, no problem.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. So make sure you guys check out Are We Not Cats, streaming on Tubi, Prime, Shudder, all that stuff. You guys will definitely enjoy it. So signing off, this is Dave.
This is Joshua.
This is Xander.
And this is Brandon.
Have a good night.
Take it easy.
You're going to edit this, so you're going to take out all the parts that we sound dumb and keep all the parts that we sound smart.
Nope.
Yeah, we're going to clean it up.
Yeah.
You should hear the podcast. They leave in every stupid thing I have ever said.
Yep.
And then they put it on a loop.
Well, no.
I might have to mute this. We're having some big drag racing going on outside, so I might have to mute this.
Drag.
Okay.
Like RuPaul's Drag Race? Or like
Yeah,
drag
that
racing
kind of
car?
racing.